Welcome to Year of Inktober, Month of Game Design. Over the course of 2024, I will be using these 31 prompts as inspirations for my game development projects. This week's prompt is Path. Let's get started. Okay, so last week I was a little too ambitious. So this week I'm taking it easy. I'm just gonna make Snake, okay? DougDoug made Snake 2. Look how popular that video was. So I'm gonna make Snake 3. The market is hungry for Snake sequels. Let's go! Alright, so the actual plan here is to make Snake, but it follows paths that the player draws rather than typical 4-directional movement. So I'm gonna start by making Snake, but where you control it with your mouse and the snake just moves directly towards the mouse. Okay, so I got the circle following my mouse, but it's doing it with this weird offset, and, oh wait, hang on. Okay, yeah, I know what's going on here. The mouse coordinates are in screen space, whereas the circle coordinates are in game world space, so I just need to figure out how to account for that offset. Alright, so it turns out this is actually a pretty easy fix. I just gotta change this to get global mouse position, and then it gives me the mouse position in world space. And then it should follow the mouse directly. Perfect. Now, if there's one thing I know about the titular character Snake from the hit video game Snake, it's that he loves eating apples. So let's put some apples on this screen. Okay, we got apples, the snake hits them, now he just needs to eat them. Okay, now he's successfully eating the apples, and I believe the next step is to make him grow longer with each one he eats. Okay, in order to make this guy grow longer, I'm gonna have to do something I haven't done since data structures class in college. I'm gonna have to make a linked list. Each segment of the snake will have a reference to the segment in front of it, and then I just gotta make it follow that guy. Okay, so now I successfully got the new segments spawning in, but they are spawning in the middle instead of behind the snake, which is a little weird, but I can fix that later. But other than that, you know, it's doing pretty good. The collisions are sometimes a little bit weird, and it doesn't crash into itself yet properly, but we'll fix that. We'll fix that. Okay, so I'm working on the collisions, and I made it worse. Okay, now it's worse in a different way, which I think is technically an improvement. And now they're just stacking up in the middle. I don't understand. They're so far apart now. Okay, the tail segments aren't getting stuck on each other anymore. I still do need to do the head collisions, but I think this is pretty good for the tail. Okay, so now the head successfully crashes into the rest of the snake, and now I just need to make it so the tail nodes appear on the tail instead of in the middle of nowhere. Alright, so this is a pretty good stopping point for today. Tomorrow I'll add in the path controls so that the snake follows the path instead of the mouse. But I'm pretty happy with progress so far. Alright, so now in order to hit the theme for this week, I need to add path. So I'm going to put in a path node. So before I just had the snake following the mouse, but now I'm going to add something called a path follow node, which follows this path, and then the snake can follow that. Hopefully that makes sense? Okay, so now I've coded a basic path follower so that when I drag the mouse, it should create a path wherever I drag, and then this circle should follow that path. Okay, so now I've got the snake following the path, and I can make it pick up the apple. So currently, when the snake reaches the end of a path, he just stops, I want to make it so that when he reaches the end of a path, he keeps going in a straight line until he hits another one. Okay, so now I draw the path, he follows the path. I draw another one, he keeps going, he hits that one, he goes that way. Now I just need the paths to be visible. It was actually pretty easy to make these visible. I just had to copy the curve from the path node onto something called a line node, which then draws a line between all the points. They are pretty chunky though, so I'm going to lower the time resolution so that it draws points more often to make them more curvy. Now they're nice and curvy, and honestly, this is pretty much all the gameplay done.
Dear viewer, let me tell you that this was not, in fact, all the gameplay done. Allow me to take you along as I explore the bug that stole 4 hours of my life. Our journey begins with a lesson in the differences between a good curve and a bad curve. We will start with an example. This is a good curve, and this is a bad curve. Can you tell the difference? No? Perhaps another example will help. This is a good curve, and this is a bad curve. You still can't tell the difference? Well, neither could I, but the fact remained that some curves were good and could be followed by the snake, and some curves were bad, and the snake would pass through them as if they did not exist. But I was able to identify where this bug was happening. It was happening in a method called curve.getClosestPoint. And if you tried to use this method with a bad curve, it would always return the same result, not a number. Now this is a value that you get when you ask a computer to do math that doesn't make sense. But I do not know what math this function was asking the computer to do. So I went to find out. So I went online and I found the publicly available C++ source code of Godot, the engine I use. And I found the code that controls curves in a file called curve.cpp. Now viewer, I will spare you the boredom of having to listen to the details of the vector mathematics that I had to relearn in order to understand this arcane riddle of a C++ function known as curve.getClosestPoint. Because as it turns out, the problem was that sometimes when I drew the curve with the mouse, 2 of the points would end up a little too close together, and that made the math not work. And all I had to do was add a simple check that whenever I add a new point to the curve, it's at least 1 unit of distance away from the previous point. And after 4 hours of turmoil and distress and relearning math that I haven't used since Calculus 3 in college, I could finally rest.
Now let's do the art. Snakes aren't circles, snakes are snake-shaped, so we gotta make them snake-shaped. And of course, we can't forget the snake colors. And a snake's body is really just a snake's head, but without the face on it, so we just take that off and boom, that's his body. Then we just put the little guy in the game and boom, look how cute he is. So then we just need a background to replace this boring gray one, so we make one, but that one sucks, so we throw it out and then we make a better one. And then we realize that these thick blocky white lines look like trash, so we make them thinner and rounder and a nicer color, and then they look good. And then we just have to, wait, that's it. The game's done.